Funding a business can be tough, especially if you don't fit the traditional banking mold. What if there was another way? What if there was a system designed to fund dreams and not just businesses? Today on Beyond the Numbers, I'm talking to Fred Houck, the visionary behind DreamFunders. Frustrated with the barriers in traditional lending, Fred built a model that doesn't just give businesses capital, it provides mentorship, sustainability, and community. With a background in commercial banking and nonprofit leadership, he saw firsthand how great ideas were left behind because they didn't check the right boxes. So he created a new way to say yes. In this episode of Beyond the Numbers, we'll talk about why Dream Funders is different, how it's rewriting the rules to startup funding, and how it aims to cut the failure rate of small businesses from 80% to 20%. If you ever dreamed of starting a business but felt shut out, this episode is for you. Fred, thank you so much for being on Beyond the Numbers.
Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, so let's start with your journey into Dream Funders. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional journey and how your experiences in the Boy Scouts as a commercial banker led you to this point?
Absolutely. Start with kind of the banker side first, then we'll loop back to the Boy Scouts. As a commercial banker, I get very frustrated when I can't really finance a startup, right? So you don't have 2 years of tax returns that are positive, maybe don't have enough cash in the pocket, whatever the excuse is for the bank box that doesn't work. So then I refer the deals off to another startup fund, and these are more traditional, like actually lending to startups. But turns out they underwrite like a bank also. They're writing to the risk, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you got investor money in there. You got to make sure you're getting that ROI. So out of the frustration of that, trying to figure out a way that I could do this differently to help dreams get funded and be successful in their funding. In mid 90s, early 2000s, I managed the Boy Scouts in the Spokane, Washington region. And I was district director and a couple thousand volunteers, 300 packs and troops. So a lot of volunteer organization and fundraising. And the fundraising part was where I started aligning that with what I did as a banker, and then realizing that I can take the donated dollar versus the invested dollar and unlock the power of that dollar, because with the donated dollar, the benefit's already technically received. Our goal is to protect that dollar through the mentorship side of things that we put into it. Cause it's like, okay, how do we mitigate the risk of that money and not lose that dollar? Since we're underwriting into a market that 80% failure rate in the first 2 years for startups. What I came down to was through mentoring the business for the first 3 years of the business cycle, we can help that business owner be successful in their life. And we can be there with them and making sure that if they need more marketing, if they need more talent in play, we can be there to provide it and help them be successful and get to the growth of the business cycle. Really where it kind of came from. And it was probably almost 2 years ago now that I initially started with the idea. And September a year ago, filed for DreamFunders as an LLC and applied for the 1023 501 through the IRS and got that 6 months and 9 days later in August 24. And now we're racing towards our March 7th grand kickoff.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. Yeah. You talked about just your frustration with not being able to help these folks in these areas and small businesses, and having the frustration of trying to partner with startup funds and running into the same issues. Yeah. How does your personal values impact your goal for Dream Funders?
I've always wanted to do business, be a part of the entrepreneur, start up all kinds of different things. Freddie just could never figure out what he wanted to be when he grew up. So as a commercial banker, I got into it after talking with some of my lead volunteers at the Boy Scouts before I transitioned over to finance about why are you doing what you're doing and what is it that led you to this field that you're in, because you're very successful at it. And through those conversations, the banking side came up a lot and ended up being the direction that I chose, because I do love business. I want to be a part of that dream. And my core value really is to be authentic and helping them be successful. And that's where the frustration came from, because as a commercial banker, I could only help them be successful once they reached a certain level of success.
To talk a bit about DreamFunders, how does it differ from traditional startup funding models?
So the donated dollar truly unlocks the capital for the startup, for anybody. And that's why we say any dream is a dream worth funding and pursuing. One, we don't take personal collateral. We don't take your home. So if you do fail, you're not ruined. You can try again. Every startup fund out there takes your home, takes as much cash from you as they can, and it really drains the owner's pockets. Not a good thing for the owner, because it sets them up with fail in the growth phase, because we're not competing for that risk of mitigating the risk to get the return, like an 8 or 9% return on the dollar to the investor. We're able to do this mentoring program that nobody else does. So our deals are screened completely different from everybody else. We don't use what's your credit, how much equity do you have in your home, what's your cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. We look at bringing the ambassador that is experienced in that particular market the business is going into. That ambassador basically looks at the business plan, looks at the experience of the owner, and says, okay, here's where I think we need to strengthen things up in order to get you ready to launch. Right. So it's not a no, it's this is what we need to do to get you here. And once they get to here, and that could be 3 weeks or 3 years, we don't know. Every deal's different, right? Some are very complicated and some are, let's start a coffee stand. Once you get to that funding phase, then this is another piece that's completely different, is we then require you to do a 3-year pro forma with us. You're going to set up financial goals within those 3 years. There'll be benchmarks for the capital release for the next phases of your capital that's designated towards your business. By requiring that participation in the 3-year pro forma, we're putting in there the accountant, the attorney, the marketing piece that a lot of them don't have in there for getting the word out and expending that money. Then we put in a livable wage, because we want them focused on the business, not on work a second or third job, and you're not using the last dollar to get this going, so that you can be 100% into it. You still have your financial strength for your home peace of mind and health. And we're building into it the things that if you had that cash and were able to do it yourself, the bank would probably take you in and say, man, we can do this. We'll do an SBA, right?
Yeah, that's right. You've done all the work. Here's some money now.
Yeah. And or the other kind of funds. 98% of businesses, I think, probably have maybe a pretty accurate number if they really look at it, get screened out because of that ROI model.
Yeah.
By what we're doing, we're capturing that 98% that said no to, and giving them the opportunity to go after their dream.
Yeah.
Start a business, become their own boss, help their family, you can name all the different things you want to name around it. But if you are an individual that likes to be independent and you get told no about your startups and your dreams and stuff, it's hard and it hurts. And I want that to be less painful. I think we're achieving that.
As we've talked about before, specifically with small businesses, they're not only in business for themselves, but they help their communities, they help their families. You talked about how it impacts their community and how it impacts the business owner themselves. There's a lot of emotion that goes into your business. And if you're worried about paying the bills, you're not worried about building your dream business.
Right.
Can you share just a little bit more about the capital gap that DreamFunders aims to fill and why it's so significant to small businesses?
The capital gap is limited access to capital for anybody to start up their business. And when I say anybody, it could be, think of somebody that's been homeless or been for jail time, or just really dirt poor background, which I know that background. There's that capital is not available to that source unless that goes out and gets a friend, family, or investor to back them in what they're trying to do.
Right.
And that really puts everybody at risk, which then makes it hard again to get that dream out there, because it is a huge risk from that standpoint. So by addressing the capital gap as freeing up money through the donation, because it really is unlocked. The benefit's already given. That return on investment's there, if you want to think about it that way. And then you flip around to the community standpoint. The capital gap is the economic development power that's missing.
Mhm.
And that's why our local Chamber of Commerce and EDC has provided a letter of collaboration with us to move forward with like a revolving loan fund style for the city. Because in 5 years, when we get to our $10 million fund goal, hopefully sooner, but just being realistic, we're unlocking 70 to 100 companies a year, right? And 3 average full-time employees, 4 part-time employees. And then by providing the mentor program and having unlocked the capital to actually get that business going, get those FTEs in place, the businesses started, and then supporting them through that growth phase, making them truly sustainable. And from an economic development standpoint, it's a very powerful tool.
Mhm.
The
Very
capital
much.
gap encompasses a lot, but at its core, it's just a lot of money out there, and it's very inaccessible unless you fit the box.
Mhm. You mentioned like some of the short-term and long-term goals, and you addressed the businesses that you want to invest in and the number of businesses you want to invest in. So what are the primary goals for Dream Funders in the short and long term?
So we're in the middle of a capital raise right now. The March 7th kickoff. We're trying to raise 500,000. That'll be the start. At that point, we'll start lending once we hit 500,000. Figure 2 to 3 companies come out of that, again, because we're providing full-time employment for them, basically, giving them the living wage, and then continue raising till we get to the 10 million mark. So writing grants, doing other fundraising programs and golf tournaments or whatever we can do to raise that 10 million bucks. Because at 10 million, we're pretty sustainable. Then if we're successful in taking our 80% fail rate down to 20%, which is our goal
Mhm.
through the mentoring program, really, and we're only recapturing 20% of loss every year through donations again and other grants. And at that 10 million level, then we will start taking it. Think of it like the Boy Scouts of America with all the different packs and troops and councils across the country. We're basically going to take this to every city or region across the country. Yeah, we're going to scale it.
Even though this podcast is called Beyond the numbers do matter. And hearing that you're trying to reduce the small business failure rate from 80% to 20% is just amazing.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
come
Thank
that.
you. So when money's lent out, it is that once they achieve it, it's like, here's your money, good luck, make your payments, right?
Right.
So that's where all the fail comes from, right? It's like you go through this process of convincing everybody that you have a great idea, and you get your funding. And in some of the incubator and VC families, the groups, there is mentoring beyond, which is good, very good, but it's not an intensive 3-year program, right? The carry forward is where DreamFunders really separates itself from everybody. Now, we will collaborate with everybody. DreamFunders can come in with the VC groups or with the incubators, with any communities, own startup, their pitch program that they have. You got a lot like pitch to business programs out there, and we can help bridge that owner's capital that they need, the cash strength to get the approval through those other groups. So in some cases, the overall funding, what may not come from DreamFunders, it may come from another lender. We're just providing the additional strength and then the carry forward mentoring once the loan's in place. We provide the living wage, and that's another portion of it. We don't want to put money in place that's going to then create a wall that those investors don't want to eventually seed or buy, or because that's the exit strategy for that particular startup. With these startups, getting them through that first 3 years with positive tax returns allows us to then get them to a commercial bank, get their loans and stuff refinanced, and that returns our capital. We can put it back into another dream, and maybe we can do that like infinite amount of times.
I really do love that Dream Funders incorporates community and mentorship. How do the ambassadors work with the entrepreneurs to set them up for success?
So the ambassadors will come from the community, and every community already has a great ecosystem for entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
In our area, Spokane, we have Startup Spokane, we have Ignite, we have Launchpad, we have so many there I can't even name them really. There's literally probably 200, and they're all community folks trying to support the entrepreneur and drive business and all that. So we're basically not going to recreate the wheel in the mentorship program part. We're just going to capture what's already there through the communities. Once we hit the funding phase, those ambassadors will actually become paid consultants to the business. And depending on the business, it'll either be a monthly touch or quarterly touch, whatever it takes based on that business. So we will know if they're hitting a bump. We will know if they're not getting good top line growth, or they're drawing out too much money for their own ownership or whatever to set them up for failure down the road. And then we can help make sure they stay on track.
What do you see as success for DreamFunders?
I know on the volunteers, there's so much energy and excitement around this right now. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
as we start businesses and they're successful, and then we can when they get refinanced or they get sold to the VC or whatever, and we can capture that emotion on a new video, because every business we do will be videoed. And we'll
Nice.
have the entry and we'll have the exit, fail or success. And we'll be able to look at it and really take pride in what was achieved with these efforts and what we did. So
Yeah.
I think the ultimate success will be in, I don't know, 20 years when we're across all of the United States in all the communities. And we have thousands of companies that have been started. And
Yes.
that will be truly exciting.
This is your vision, obviously, and bought into it. And I can see just the stories behind it, especially you mentioned like 20 years from now. These could be entrepreneurs who say, hey, because of DreamFunders, I was able to put my kid through college, or
Yep.
because of DreamFunders, I was able to help other people fund their businesses. I do see how people would want to reinvest into something like that.
Even the ones that fail, because we're not harming them in their failure and
Yeah.
they're able to come back, they get to learn from the experience and do it again.
That would be really good. So wrap it up for our listeners that are inspired by your work. What's one piece of advice that you give to someone who's had a dream but feels that they don't have the resources to pursue it?
I would say that the key piece of advice is to do like basically what we're going to try and do for you as a organization. Really look and talk to other professionals in that market you're getting into, and drill into them about what their big fail points were that they avoided or that they experienced. Because the honest truth is I've never lent money to a business owner that didn't know everything. They're like, they're the expert.
Right.
They are, but are you? There's a lot coming at you once you transition from, say, being the mechanic to the owner of a mechanic shop, as an example.
Mhm.
There's a big difference.
The thing is with business is we don't do it alone. And
Yeah.
I think with organizations like DreamFunders and even just putting it out there, letting people know that community does matter, collaboration matters, whether it's you're collaborating with your accountant, a lawyer, or other people who have been in business. So reaching
Yeah.
out and talking to people is a major thing. Yes, it's a major thing. So you are about to have an event. I want you
Yeah.
to let us know about this event, what it entails, how's it going to go.
Cool. You guys are East Coast, so obviously you can't make it.
Can't make it.
Cool.
Yes.
But you can go to dreamfunders.org and you can donate. You can pass that on to, say, 10 friends. That'll help us out a lot. Every bit helps. The details for the event are there also. Folks can sign up there. We just shot video yesterday, that 30-second invite video. So that should be out next week. And I'll try and get it up on the site and email it out to everybody too, and spread the love.
Yes.
But
Always.
March 7th at the Marabou Park Hotel from 4 to 6. We're probably about 300 to hoping to get to 400. That's our max capacity of businesses and business owners. It's going to be a big ask right in the front to say, give us a couple $100. 10 minutes into that, we're then going to just open it up into a big old networking event. So we'll try and do some stuff to help people facilitate their networking. Not everybody's really good at it, but we'll do like a prize drawing for you get 7 cards from folks that aren't at your table, and something like that. But
yeah, I'm definitely going to put everything in the description of this video, share with my network, because even though we can't be there, we can
appreciate
at least
that.
spread the word, fund, especially for something as like amazing as DreamFunders. I'm committed. I'm the East Coast person. Vision ready to expand.
Careful now, you're talking to a recruit volunteer master here.
Hey,
Right?
you got me with community and just helping folks out. So Fred, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Honestly, talking to Fred really reinforced why funding shouldn't just be about the numbers. It should be about people, the communities that we're building, and about giving business owners an opportunity and a real shot at success. DreamFunders isn't just about another lending option. It's a movement to make entrepreneurship more accessible and sustainable and less risky for the people who need it most. I personally love that DreamFunders is tackling the capital gap in a way that doesn't trap entrepreneurs in debt or force them to give up ownership. This model focuses on mentorship, financial sustainability, and a real economic impact. And that's exactly the kind of change the world needs, especially in the area of small business funding. If this resonated with you, please check out DreamFunders at dreamfunders.org. The link will also be in the description. If you are in Spokane, Washington, get to their March 7th kickoff event. And if you're like me on the East Coast, help spread the word. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, because all dreams deserve a chance to thrive. Thank you so much for tuning in to Beyond the Numbers. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep building.